The clatter of plates and laughter fills the air, but Alejandro keeps his smile steady. That same practiced expression he wears like armor. Every joke tossed his way lands heavier than the tray he carries, yet he bows, apologizes, and keeps serving. They don't see the nights he spends retouching photos under the dim kitchen bulb, or the messages that go unanswered from agencies that never believe in waiters with dreams. Tonight, as he wipes down another table, a whisper flickers in his chest, a promise he's repeated 100 times. One day, thou look up. The night rush begins. Alejandro moves between tables like a ghost in a world that refuses to see him. Laughter ripples as Javier imitates his polite tone, raising his hand like a servant. Camila leans back, amused, her laughter slicing through the air. Alejandro's fingers tighten around his tray, but his face remains calm. The calm that comes from years of swallowing pride. When Lucia meets his eyes, she shakes her head softly, a silent plea not to break. He nods once, then forces another smile, because sometimes silence is the only rebellion left. When the doors finally close, silence swallows the chaos. The floor smells of wine and exhaustion. Alejandro takes off his apron, folding it with ritual precision. The gesture of a man who refuses to be broken, even in defeat. Lucia approaches, her voice soft, telling him he deserves better. He smiles without answering. Better feels like a language he once knew but forgot how to speak. As the neon light flickers across his face, he whispers the words only he can hear. Just one chance. Back in his tiny apartment, Alejandro scrolls through his phone, staring at the newest email from the modeling agency. We regret to inform you. The words blur into the noise of passing cars outside. He sets the phone down and leans back, laughing softly at the irony of chasing dreams that never answer. Yet beside him lies the camera, waiting. He picks it up and snaps a photo of his reflection in the dark window, proof that he still exists, even when the world forgets to see him. He doesn't sleep. Instead, he spends the night taking photographs. The city through rain-streaked glass, strangers' faces caught mid-laughter, his own hand holding the camera like a promise. By dawn, exhaustion fades into something sharper. Resolve. He opens his laptop, uploads the photos, and sends them to one last agency. His message is simple, almost defiant. You don't have to believe in me, just look. Then he closes the screen and watches the sunrise paint his walls gold. For the first time in years, he smiles. Not the waiter's smile, but his own. The morning after feels like any other. Tired eyes, burnt coffee, and the echo of plates clattering in memory. Alejandro scrolls absently through his phone before work, expecting nothing. But then he freezes. The subject line reads, "Congratulations, Alejandro Cruz, selected for preliminary casting." For a moment, time stops. His breath catches. It isn't a dream. The same screen that has rejected him 100 times now glows with possibility. He laughs, a quiet, disbelieving laugh that breaks into a smile he can't hide. For the first time, his reflection looks back with pride. Hours later, as he ties his apron, his phone rings. An unknown number. The voice on the other end introduces herself as a casting director from Milan. She speaks quickly, telling him they loved his submission, that his natural expression has something real. Alejandro stammers, apologizing for the noise of the kitchen around him. She laughs softly and says, "Don't apologize. That's what we liked. You're genuine." When the call ends, he leans against the wall, eyes closed, his heart drumming louder than the restaurant's chaos. He doesn't tell anyone. The news feels too fragile, too unreal. Instead, he hides it inside him, like a sacred secret. Each shift at the restaurant feels lighter. Even Javier's jokes slide off like rain. Lucia notices the change. The way his smile carries something different now. Something untouchable. She asks what happened, but he just says, Nothing. Not yet. In that not yet lives everything he's ever wanted. Lucia finds him sitting alone during break, sketching poses on napkins. She slides a small gift box toward him. Inside, a new camera strap embroidered with his initials. For when you finally shoot something that matters, she says. He looks at her, moved but unsure how to respond. For the first time, he realizes she's been watching him not with pity, but belief. But he thanks her softly, his voice trembling. In her smile, he sees quiet faith, the kind that doesn't demand proof. A week later, he boards the early train, the city still half asleep. The casting studio feels surreal. White walls, bright lights, faces that look like dreams sculpted in flesh. He stands among them, nervous yet calm. When it's his turn, he steps into the frame and simply is. No pretense, no posing. Just Alejandro. The photographer lowers the camera and says, "Perfect." And for the first time, the word feels like it belongs to him. Word travels fast in quiet places. A coworker saw Alejandro boarding a train dressed too well for a waiter. By evening, whispers float through the restaurant like cigarette smoke, soft, poisonous, curious. Javier laughs the loudest, calling him the model of the month. Alejandro shrugs it off, polishing glasses as if the words don't matter, but they do. Lucia's eyes follow him with a knowing sadness. Hope, it seems, never stays secret for long. Camila arrives late that night, her perfume slicing through the stale air of closing time. She asks for Alejandro, calling him the new celebrity. Her words drip with mock sweetness. When he brings her wine, she tilts her head and says, "Don't forget us little people when you're famous." The laughter from her table feels like claws. He sets the glass down gently, meeting her eyes for the first time. "I never forget anyone," he says, his voice steady, the first flicker of the man he's becoming. Days later, the phone rings again. The same Milan number. They want him for the campaign. His hands shake as he listens, half afraid to breathe. When the call ends, he doesn't shout or cry. He simply sits, letting the moment wash over him like rain. Outside, the city moves on, unaware that something immense has just begun. He looks at his reflection in the window, and for once, he doesn't see the waiter. He sees himself. When he tells Lucia, she laughs and cries at once, hugging him so tightly he can barely breathe. "I told you," she whispers, her voice trembling. But then her smile fades. "Just promise me you won't forget where you came from." He nods, still catching his breath. Her eyes linger longer than friendship allows, and for a heartbeat, something unspoken fills the space between them. Love, or maybe the fear of losing it. By week's end, Javier's mockery turns venomous. He corners Alejandro during closing, accusing him of lying, of pretending to be something he's not. Alejandro doesn't answer. He simply finishes stacking the chairs, his silence sharper than any insult. When Javier slams a hand against the wall, Lucia steps between them. Her voice breaks the tension like glass. "He doesn't need to prove anything to you." Javier laughs bitterly and storms out. The silence that follows is heavier than any fight. The train station smells of rain and metal. Alejandro stands with his old camera around his neck and a borrowed suitcase at his feet. Lucia waits beside him, trying to smile, but her eyes betray her. "You'll come back," she says softly. He nods, though neither of them believe it. When the train doors slide open, time feels heavier than luggage. He steps in, turns back one last time, her hand raised, her face blurring behind the glass. The city fades, but her gaze stays. Milan feels like another planet. Every street too clean, every face too perfect. Alejandro walks through glass towers, reflecting clouds, wondering how he fits into this world of measured beauty. At the studio, assistants rush, cameras flash. and someone hands him a designer suit. When he looks in the mirror, he doesn't recognize the man staring back. Poised, confident, almost beautiful. For the first time, the reflection doesn't flinch. The camera clicks like thunder. The photographer's voice cuts through the air. Don't pose. Just breathe. Alejandro exhales, closing his eyes for a second, then opens them with quiet power. The flashes capture something raw, a soul untouched by arrogance, a beauty born from endurance. When the session ends, the photographer approaches him. Eyes bright. You don't fake it, she says. You live it. He smiles faintly, unsure if that's praise or prophecy. After the shoot, the creative director calls him in. A sleek office, a wall of photos, and a contract waiting on the desk. The campaign will be international. Billboards, magazines, everything. Alejandro stares at his name printed on the agreement, disbelief flooding his chest. He signs, hand trembling slightly. As he leaves the office, he realizes that this signature has divided his life into before and after. That night, he calls Lucia. She answers half asleep, her voice trembling with joy when he tells her he has been chosen. But between laughter and pride, there's silence, the kind that holds everything unsaid. I wish you could see it, he says. I will, she replies, and he hears the unspoken I miss you beneath it. After the call ends, he stares out at the Milan skyline, lights shimmering like the stars Madrid never showed him. A month later, the first issue arrives, his face printed on glossy paper, eyes staring back with a confidence that feels foreign. Alejandro traces the edges of the page, remembering every night spent polishing tables. The magazine lies open beside his morning coffee as sunlight spills across the room. He doesn't smile. He just breathes, slow, deep, disbelieving. The boy who once waited for tips now stares at himself like he's meeting a stranger. Within weeks, his image spreads across Europe. Store windows, subways, city squares. People pause, point, take photos. But Alejandro feels a strange emptiness beneath the noise. Fame, he realizes, is silent when you stand in its center. He looks up at one of the giant billboards, his own eyes staring down at him, and wonders if the man in the picture is happier than he is. The world has seen him, but the people who once looked through him still don't know. Back in Madrid, Lucia walks past a boutique window and stops. There he is, Alejandro, frozen in perfection. The same eyes that once looked at her across coffee-stained tables now stare from glass and paper. She presses a hand to her mouth, tears threatening but not from sadness, from pride, from distance, from everything that could have been. Inside the store, people whisper his name. Outside, she whispers it too, like a secret meant only for her heart. By the end of the week, the restaurant hums with gossip. Someone saw the billboard above the main square, Alejandro's face towering over Madrid. The same mouths that once mocked him now claim they always knew he had something special. Javier laughs too loudly, his grin cracking under jealousy. Camila pretends indifference, but keeps glancing out the window toward the direction of the sign. The room feels smaller now, as if haunted by the ghost of their own cruelty. Late one night, Alejandro receives an email from the campaign team. The company plans a global reveal in Madrid, right above the restaurant where he used to work. His breath catches. Fate, it seems, has a strange sense of poetry. He reads the address again and again, feeling the full circle close around him. This isn't revenge. It's revelation. And for once, he doesn't feel small. He feels red. The city looks smaller now. Alejandro walks through Madrid's narrow streets, the echo of his footsteps mingling with memories. Every corner, every lamppost whispers of another version of him. The one who served, apologized, endured. Now he moves with quiet certainty, Not arrogance, but peace. He stops outside the restaurant, the same door, the same scent of roasted coffee. For a moment, he just stands there, breathing in the past before walking inside. A crowd gathers as music swells through the plaza. A white curtain covers the new billboard, the company's logo shining below it. The air hums with anticipation. Inside the restaurant, Javier pours drinks for curious guests while pretending not to care. Alejandro stands quietly among them, unrecognized beneath a cap. When the curtain falls, silence strikes. There he is, towering above the building, his image blazing against the sky. Gasps ripple. Glasses freeze mid-air. The waiter has returned. Larger than life, through the restaurant window, Javier stares, disbelief twisting into something he can't name. Camila steps outside, mouth slightly open, her laughter gone. For a moment, their eyes meet. Alejandro's calm gaze holding hers without a word. She lowers her eyes first. Javier steps out too, muttering curses that dissolve into silence. The world has shifted, and they both know it. The waiter they mocked now owns the sky above them. Through the murmuring crowd, a voice calls his name. Soft, trembling, familiar. He turns, and there she is. Lucia walks toward him, tears glistening in her eyes, her smile trembling with pride. "You did it," she whispers. "No," he answers, voice low, almost breaking. "We did." The noise fades. For a heartbeat, the world belongs only to them. Two souls who believed when no one else did. Later, when the crowd disperses, Alejandro walks into the restaurant one last time. The same tables, the same scent, the same hum. He places his hands on the counter and smiles at the new waiter. "One espresso, please." When it arrives, he leaves a folded note under the cup. For the dreamers who serve before they shine. Then he steps outside, looks up at his own face in the sky, and whispers, "Now they look up." Weeks later, Alejandro sits under studio lights, answering questions for a televised interview. The host asks about his overnight success. He smiles faintly and says, "It took years to happen overnight." The audience laughs softly, but his eyes drift elsewhere, to memories of spilled wine, laughter at his expense, Lucia's quiet faith. "I learned that respect doesn't come when others see you," he says. "It comes when you finally see yourself." After the interview, he finds an envelope waiting in his hotel room. Lucia's handwriting. Inside, a simple note. "I always believed the world would see what I saw. Don't forget to rest, to live, to feel." I'll be cheering quietly. As always. He reads it twice, then places it inside his camera bag, beside the strap she once gave him. Some things, he realizes, aren't meant to be lost, only carried forward. On his last night in Madrid, he walks through the same streets he once crossed carrying trays. The restaurant is closed now, lights off, windows dark. But above it, the billboard still shines, his image guarding the silence. He pauses, camera in hand, and takes a photo of it. Not for fame, not for proof, but for closure. The flash catches the faint outline of his own reflection in the glass. He smiles, both versions of himself finally meeting. Before leaving for his next campaign, he visits the train station again. This time, there's no sadness, only calm. He sits by the window, camera in his lap, watching the sunrise wash the world in gold. A stranger recognizes him, asks for a photo. He laughs, saying, "Only if you take it with me." The flash bursts, freezing two smiles in time. The famous face and the one that still remembers every table he ever served. The billboard stays for months. Long after Alejandro is gone, people pass beneath it daily. Lovers, Dreamers, waiters carrying trays. Some look up and smile without knowing why. In the end, that's what he wanted. Not fame, but to remind the world that dignity has a face, somewhere across the sea. Alejandro looks out at another skyline, camera in hand, the sunrise breaking just the same, and in that light, he is home.